Alright, in this video I'm going to show how to do pass-through of a USB 3.0 device properly. This is a Mediasonic enclosure that's attached to this ESXi host. And let's explain here. We've got our host view, ESXi is attached, and it's complaining about a disk being full and memory low right now. Alright. What I want to do is have a look at server storage. Okay, there's my data stores. Now you'll see this external RAID5 is ready for service. If we browse its data store, it's got nothing on it. It is VMFS formatted, but I'm going to basically safely eject it like you would in Windows. We're going to do the equivalent in ESXi to take care of making sure that VMware doesn't see it in inventory and won't go looking for it. And this is how I read it should be done. So suppose we're in the normal day-to-day ESXi view and we go to configuration. If you go to storage, you'll see your data stores. Fine. What are your options when you right-click? Well, there's browse, but there's also unmount. I'll also point out if we do devices and point to that same data store, let's see if we can find it. Should be obvious, got the name RAID5 in it. And there it is. Watch what happens when we right-click there. Detached. So there's unmount the device and then detach the connection. So let's try that. We're going to unmount this blank file system just to make sure we're on the right one. It's blank, there's nothing on it. Right-click and unmount. And it's saying that nothing can be mapped to it. And it's warning us. Great. Next, go to Devices and go to the same file system, the RAID5 array. Right-click and detach. And we get another warning, also telling us about potential issues. Okay, complete success. It's no longer going to be looking for that. In fact, if we hit refresh, the gray should go away. I was wrong. How about a rescan? Watching the bottom, watching the bottom. Let's go back to this. There we go. Rescan's complete already. So you can see all the steps we did so far. They were all very quick. But that gray is not going to go away until when? I don't know. I think maybe a host reboot or something. But either way, it's out of our way now, and this is the best practice to get rid of it. So what's the next step? Well, this is a eSATA connected Mediasonic enclosure. It has its own embedded RAID controller. So this RAID5 array is connected via eSATA right now. I've got the ASRock motherboard set so that the port that it's on is hot swap or hot ejectable. I'm trying to remember the phrasing they actually use on it. So now I need to make sure I pick the correct enclosure. I've got one running at RAID 5, one running at RAID 0, so it's very obvious to me which is RAID 5 as I look at the front of it. I'm pulling out its SATA cable now. Done. So now we've killed the SATA connection. And the next natural step will be to hook up USB 3.0. So I'm taking my blue-ended cable, plugging it into the Mediasonic, and I should note that the enclosure turns itself off as soon as it went dark. When it sees nothing attached, that's just how it behaves. Okay. The enclosure turned itself back on as soon as I plugged in the USB 3.0 cable. And it's healthy. So next we got to do USB pass-through. We got to do a little mapping here. So this demo is really covering a couple things. Ejecting a drive properly that's SATA attached, and then reattaching it over USB 2.0. So let me point out the ESXi host has storage adapters, a bunch of SATA ports, right? And a RAID array. But that's got nothing to do with USB. USB 3.0 is in advanced settings, where I told it to take my PCI device, 4-port high-point Rocket U USB 3.0 controller. It has 4 separate discrete USB chips where I can map all 4 or maybe just one of these to a virtual machine. In my case, I've mapped all 4. This is the virtual machine I'm most likely to move a lot of data in and out of. And then I rebooted ESXi. I've covered this in another video. And once ESXi is rebooted, now I have the luxury of being able to point to the virtual machine, look at its settings, and you'll notice it's got a USB controller already installed and a USB device. That's all the USB 2.0 world. It's got nothing to do with what we're about to do. We can leave that alone and plug in printers and other stuff to share, but what we really want to do is add a PCI device here. Notice it's unavailable. Why? Well, it's mapped elsewhere, but also it's not going to let us do a hot add. So let's go ahead and shut down that machine. It's done. We know it's done because the play button is available now. Okay, we click Edit Settings. Now when we click Add, notice PCI device is lit up. And actually it's not mapped elsewhere. We're all set. So it's telling me a couple of limitations, that I can't do snapshots while it's running. It says it will not be able to be suspended or snapshots taken or restored. Actually, when it's shut down, you can do snapshots. So the wording of that is interesting. I'm going to go ahead and add all 4 ports. In this case, it's 4 little AS media chips, controller chips for USB 3.0 for a good, or the best possible USB 3.0 speed. It's not like a hub, it's more like a switch. Okay, so now we got the 4 devices added. Click OK. If we look at vCenter here, it says reconfigured already. Now we're ready to boot it. This particular VM already has USB 3.0 drivers. And when it comes up here, that means we'll now be able to see this RAID adapter and pass it through. And actually, in our case, I'm going to reformat it right from Windows, NTFS file system. Okay. So again, this video, the point is we already have a video on my website here that explains USB pass-through and step-by-step everything, including rebooting ESXi, marking devices through pass-through, and a full video walkthrough. This video is a little different in that it's covering ejecting drives properly to make sure you don't have data loss. In my case, I'm about to reformat the drive anyway, so not a big deal, but we now know how to properly eject eSATA, or excuse me, SATA ports on a running ESXi host without data loss, and you saw it gave us many warnings. The powering command has been issued. It's taking a while for this thing to show an OS, but we have a severe memory problem. You might remember we are tight on memory. So just to speed things up a little here, I'm going to suspend another VM I'm not using at the moment. Okay. Okay, the machine is now up. The virtual machine is up. Logging in. I already mentioned the USB drivers, 3.0 drivers are present, so it should just see the storage, which means, what are we going to do? We're going to run the disk management tool, the native Windows function, to go ahead and format this thing. I was wrong. The device driver is not hanging out in the system. So let me fix that quickly. We'll get that fixed by drag and drop and run the executable. But let me show you Device Manager. There's the USB controllers waiting for a device driver. Okay, I'll cut over to Remote Desktop quickly here. They're logged out locally. Now I can log in this way and get a nice full screen window view, and my clipboard is now shared, so I can right click and paste, get that driver installed in a hurry. Notice it has a setup.exe, so we don't have to do any right click, update driver kind of stuff. Just do a friendly quick GUI. Notice this is actually from the ASRock motherboard's website. And in my case, it's the same exact driver you can get from Highpoint for the S-Media controller. So motherboard or added card, it's all the same driver in this case. You can watch here while it's finishing. And there it goes, doing its magic. Done. All right, next, storage, disk management. There we go. Nice giant 5.5 terabyte volume waiting for me to do something to it. So it's VMFS formatted. Windows doesn't know what to do with that. But let's go ahead and nuke it. So I'm going to delete the volume. That's quick. New simple volume. Next. Next. Let me think about a drive letter I'm going to want. It's fine for now. Decent name. Format's fast. And we're in good shape. So next piece I want to do is make sure I don't have any data integrity issues. Rebooting ESXi host, this VM has been set to auto start and auto stop. So if VMware Tools is installed, it should tell this OS to quiesce, shut down, close down its file system safely and smoothly. That's the easy part. But what if I'm in the middle of doing something and power goes out? I don't necessarily want to shut down. I'd probably prefer to try a suspend. But if an eSATA, if a USB 3.0 attached device messes up in a suspended state, that would be bad. Meaning, corruption or something. So I'm going to go ahead and test that next. So we need to format this thing. NTFS, not exFAT. Since it is all large images, I might want to play with that someday, but I'm not worried about it right now. Okay, I'm going to stick a little quick benchmarking tool on there too. I just want to get an idea of what kind of disk speed I'm getting. And I'm going to throw some files in this F drive we just made as well. Okay, so it's finished formatting. We can explore it now. There's our drive. We can paste the file on there. And a file where you can open it and it'll detect CRC. WinZip is a good example of a file to paste. So we'll have a good idea if we have any data integrity issues. We also have the option to eject this disk. Notice what it looks like, however. Ejecting Ethernet is kind of odd. This is obviously the one we'd want to do. Eject mass storage device. But I'm not trying to move the storage out of the house right now. I'm trying to see if I can reliably suspend and resume. So here we go. Let's just use the pause button right here. Operation is not allowed. Why is that? Well, it's because we have pass-through mode. So suspend is not an option when you have a PCI adapter pass-through. Okay? If we eject the drive, we're not going to do it through ESX anymore, right? Let's think about that for a second. If we go back at ESXi and look at data stores, it makes no sense to look here anymore or here because this is all the SATA and RAID world. This USB device is married to Windows at this point. It's Windows natively seeing what's on that PCI slot, which is a USB 3.0 controller with a hard drive attached. So the way to safely carry that external storage out of the house would be this eject from native Windows. I'm going to go ahead and reboot that VM and just see if I'm able to see the USB device, USB 3.0 device, just fine. And also, I want to open up the zip file, make sure it's not corrupted, and then finally I want to just do a quick disk benchmark to make sure I'm getting decent speed, similar to what I was getting under the VMFS file system formatting. So, giving that a shot now. After the reboot, I'll resume recording this video. This VM does typically take a little longer to boot. That might be an artifact of having the PCI device mapped. I'm not really sure. It's a little slower than your typical VM. Well, that wasn't bad once it got going. So the shutdown was kind of slow. Let me go back to remote desktop connection. Okay, remote desktop connection is taken over. And that quick benchmark I mentioned I want to do. Okay, let's run ATDO diskbench. Crank this up so it's not hitting any kind of caching effects. And let that run. I've run this in the past on an external RAID5 like this to compare VMFS file system versus NTFS. The performance difference seems to be less than 5%. I didn't actually capture a quick benchmark before I reformatted on this one because, well, there was no operating system even on it. It was blank and ready to record this video. I evacuated all the data first. All right, so that's going to take a little while to run. I will resume the video. We don't expect amazing speeds here. This is an external, affordable RAID5 solution, so a Mediasonic, well under $200 solution for an empty enclosure that has eSATA and USB 3.0 interfaces. One at a time, not both at once. Okay, in a few minutes when this is done benchmarking, I'll resume recording to show you the results. Notice the time, 10:23. The little mistake I made there was that I failed to look at the disk drive it's writing to. So let me fix that now. And we don't even know. Here we go. So the external RAID array did come back. Files are fine. No data integrity issues, of course, because we did a smooth eject. We really wouldn't expect that. Now it's a matter of making sure I point to this F drive for my next run of this test. So let me do that. And now we're ready to run it. Wow, those speeds are actually quite respectable. So my backups should be fine. So that's the end of this video. Proper eject of eSATA, proper mounting of USB 3.0, and ejecting. Just dealing with external enclosures in general with ESXi. 5.0. Thank you for watching, and thank you for visiting tinkertree.com.